Hi there, welcome back to Jody Journals. My name is Jody, and today we are going to be making a chocolate cake. I actually ended up baking 2 cakes this day. A good friend of mine was having their 60th birthday, and it was also my 11-year anniversary with my husband. So I was on double cake duty. This video only has the recipe for 1 cake, but I did double the recipe off camera. The first thing we want to do is grease and line 2 9-inch cake pans. I did square pans, you can do round pans, or you can do a 9x12 sheet pan if you want, and that holds the batter quite well as well. So you got quite a few options as far as shapes of pans go. So all I do is I take a rubber spatula and I put butter on all the sides of the pan, and then I stick parchment over, and then the 2 sides that don't have parchment I added flour to, just in case the batter wanted to stick. I wanted to mention that I had pulled the eggs and butter out of the fridge a couple hours earlier. You want to work with all room temperature ingredients, save for the coffee at the end that you want to keep hot. I also put up the amounts and the directions on text as this video progresses, so you can pause and write down ingredients if you need. I am sifting 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and a ½ teaspoon of baking powder into a bowl, and I'm setting it aside. Now I am going to sift a cup of cocoa and mix in a ½ cup of vegetable oil. I used the wrong bowl for this. Use a small bowl so you can set it aside. You'll see later that I actually transfer the cocoa mix out of this bigger bowl so I can cream the butter. Basically, the flour and the cocoa mix can be in smaller bowls, no big deal. You want to make the main part of the batter in the big bowl. So I got that a little mixed up, but no big deal, nothing a spatula can't handle. I wanted to mention that sifting your dry ingredients makes for a fluffier cake in the end with no lumps. Nobody wants to slice into a piece of chocolate cake and get a lump of baking soda in their bite. So sifting the ingredients will help the batter more thoroughly mix and stay lighter. So for this cake, I use 3 bowls, one for dry, one for the cocoa mix, and one for creaming the butter. And here I am switching bowls. Like I said, I used the wrong size bowl, no big deal. And the tools that I use are a hand mixer, a whisk, and a rubber spatula. You can also use a stand mixer if you've got one. I don't. So here I am creaming half a cup of butter until it's light and fluffy. It takes between 2 and 5 minutes depending on how soft your butter is or how warm it is in your house. And then I will be thoroughly mixing in the cocoa and oil mixture, making sure to scrape down the sides in between until it's completely smooth. Next, I'm adding half a cup of light brown sugar. When you measure light brown sugar, make sure to pack it so that you're getting the true amount. And then I'm going to mix that in. After that, I add in 1.5 cups of white sugar, and then you mix until it's light and fluffy. For me, that took about 3 minutes. The next step is to add in 3 room temperature eggs, one at a time, thoroughly mixing and scraping the sides of the bowl as you go, as well as 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. I don't normally measure my vanilla, I just give it a good glug because a little too much is just the right amount for me. Next, I add the secret ingredient to a moist cake, which is half a cup of sour cream. Trust me on this, you don't taste it at the end, but it does add a moistness that is very noticeable at the end. And then I also add in a half a cup of milk. Mix thoroughly and scrape the sides between each ingredient. We are almost there. We're going to be adding in the dry mix, a third at a time, mixing thoroughly and scraping the sides between each addition. And the batter is going to be quite thick, but don't worry, the last step is a cup of hot coffee, and it'll loosen up the batter and it'll add in a little extra flavor. You won't taste the coffee at the end. It somehow magically makes the chocolate cake feel more chocolatey. So do not skip the coffee. So for making coffee for me, I just chose the pour over method. I had already had my morning coffee and it had been cooled by the time I decided to bake these cakes. But if you're going to bake in the morning, just make a little extra coffee for yourself for the cake. I did it over the measuring cup and then, of course, had a mug to transfer the rest of the drippage over to. And I would suggest hand whisking in the coffee instead of using the mixer, less of a chance of splashing hot coffee on yourself. And you can sort of get a feel for the smoothness of the batter with your hands. Alrighty, now you want to divide your batter evenly between your two 9-inch pans, or just pour the whole kit and caboodle into your 9x12 sheet pan. And you will be baking these from between 35 to 45 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on your, humidity, where you live, elevation, all that good stuff. My cakes took about 35 minutes each, but I know that my oven runs a little bit hot, so that could be why. Now we are making chocolate buttercream. I doubled this recipe, so keep that in mind if it looks like way too much butter. But for a single batch of buttercream, you will take a cup and a half of butter and cream it until it's light and fluffy, about 5 minutes. Then you are going to add in a half a cup of cocoa powder and mix that in thoroughly. And then you will add in 6 to 8 cups of powdered sugar, 1 cup at a time, mixing thoroughly in between each. If it starts to get a little too stiff, and you'll feel it or see it with your mixer, it'll start to get a little bit grainy looking, then add in a tablespoon or so of milk. For my double batch, since I made 2 cakes, I used about 3 tablespoons of milk, so for a single batch, it would probably be between 1 and 2 tablespoons of milk, depending on your butter, depending on your humidity, and all that beautiful stuff. So it's kind of something you just do by feel. I found as I kept making this that there's no real way to stop the sugar from floofing around, but my easiest way would to be make a well in the center of the frosting, add the sugar there, and then use your rubber spatula to sort of fold it in before you use the mixer. If you have a stand mixer, it probably won't be as floofy. I chose a square plate because that's what I had for my square cake. I flipped the first cake upside down so that the rounded dome was on the bottom. If you are a little more particular than that, feel free to trim your cakes. This was a rustic cake. And then I plopped the second piece of cake topside down again so that the top of the cake was flat and true. And then I frosted the sides, and then I plop a bunch of frosting on top, and that's it. Thank you so much for baking with me today. I hope you enjoy this recipe if you try it. If you have any questions about anything, let me know down below. I'm happy to answer. If you have a favorite recipe you want to share, leave it below. And I hope to see you back on my channel soon. Around here, we do all sorts of types of creative endeavors. We garden, we do art, we sew, we bake now, apparently. I basically just take you along on all of my creative pursuits, cakes included. I hope to see you again here soon. Like I said, my name is Jody, and this channel is called Jody Journals. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.